La Lanterna, a spotlight in Italian football, is a podcast that dives into the beautiful game seen from the eyes of two fans from the oldest team in Italy's point of view. My name is Fabrizio Cardone, Canadian and Genovese, together with my friend Matt Killen, an American-born and Genoa fan. Every week, we'll tell you all you need to know about the only team you need to know about, Genoa CFC. Plus, we'll have guests and provide updates from around the magical world of Italian football. Benvenuti, welcome to La Lanterna podcast. This is Fabrizio with my best buddy,
Matt. What's up, Fabry? We have a win to talk about this time. Better than the last one.
Is there a lot of stuff to talk about?
Not that much, but at least we're talking about 3 points this time.
Finally, once again, after the Salernitana, I guess we have the Verona, which was very important before the international break not to go with a negative aspect. And just because of the fact that we're seeing the deficiencies and the lackness of our bench, I suppose. And there's a lot of rumors also around the transfer market, or a possibility of a transfer market as well. But let's go one step at a time. Let's go back to our match at the Ferraris against Verona. The match ends 1-0. How did that look like?
It's, when you said, is there that much to talk about, I think that's kind of the best way to sum up the match a little bit. We have to talk about the goal from Dragushin. I guess before we get into it, I'll strut my stuff a little bit and say, while I didn't call for Genoa to win the match, I think my prediction in the end was relatively accurate. I thought it was going to be a draw. I thought that Dragushin would score, although I thought it was going to come from a corner. And I thought we were going to look pretty sluggish and we wouldn't quite be able to really get past Verona. I think that was pretty much true. We didn't put on that many chances. We had a kind of unexpectedly great volley of all types of goals from Dragushin in open play, which was phenomenal. But, I'm not sure we saw quite the same level of performance that we were expecting to see against Verona. I think that's an honest reaction.
I don't want to contradict you, of course, but while I was watching it, I had the exact same feeling. I did not rewatch the match again because I don't necessarily like to do that, because to me, sports is usually either live or nothing. But I did see a few times extended highlight, and even by looking at the stats, I'm seeing shots on target, 6 for Genoa, 1 for Verona. Then you got shots off target, was 6 for Genoa versus the 4 of Verona. So what I'm trying to say with that, and we'll get to the one of Verona for a great save by Martinez, but what I'm trying to say is, eventually we did have quite a few chances. If I may say, before we talk about Dragushin's goal, what happened with that? I mean, not what happened. How did that ball by Ekuban did not even go in? Everybody'd been bantering and talking bad about him, but that was an amazing ball opportunity. And the unlucky that is surrounding that poor player is incredibly humongous.
You'd think it's going to come right for him at some point. We're not seeing the end product from him, and it's something that it's frustrating still because, as we've talked about before, we kind of need him to get going. You want him to be able to put this past him. He's had some near goals in the past too. It's just, I don't know. I mean, it still was a little bit of a long shot though, I think, don't you?
Everybody thought it was going to go in. And then on the ricochet, actually, De Winter even had that opportunity, and even that did not go in. That whole action was a whole miss, but not a miss because of an inability or not us being focused and so on. It was like a pure bad luck on our side. So ultimately, at the end, if I look at the result, I think that the 1-0 is a little bit tight on us.
That's probably true. I mean, if a person cares about advanced statistics, to your point, our expected goals were 1.7 to Verona's 0.24. So almost a 2-0 expected outcome. Our 16 shots to their 7. As you mentioned, we had 5 big chances. We only converted 1 of them. So maybe the match, we're remembering it a little bit less fondly than we should. I think a lot of us had the experience late in the match, whether or not Verona had many shots on goal, it felt like they were threatening. And we see this amazing save from Martinez to keep it 1-0. But I don't know if it's completely accurate to say we dominated the match, we bossed it. And it's not like we're really going for that, I suppose, that much this season anyway. We're not Barcelona playing with possession this whole time. We're playing our game. And possession was pretty evenly split. I think we all know possession's not exactly the telltale of who had the better match. I do think we deserve to win, don't get me wrong, but it just seemed like it was closer than it should have been. It's kind of how I would respond to it.
Well, that's exactly what my point when I was saying when I watched it live as much as everybody did. It felt quite differently compared to when you watch it after, without the tension, without the anxiety, and so on. Because knowing the outcome, you're obviously going to watch it with a different type of analysis and perspective. While through the match, when you don't really know don't know at all, actually, what the outcome is going to be looking like, you're always afraid to get that, because that's what we're so used to, also, especially in the last 10, 15 minutes. And anyways, so opened it up by saying great opportunities with both the Winter and Ekuban first.
Gudmundsson with the corner. Nice curl on it. Frendrup nods it back towards the mix. This is Ekuban off the post, and then De Winter denied by a goal line clearance. Desperately unlucky. First Ekuban, and then De Winter.
And just minutes after, what happened there with Dragusin?
It was kind of this bizarre play, I guess. I can't remember exactly how the ball made its way to Haps, but he had this kind of unusual cross that he played. It was almost like this aerial through ball or something, and the FIFA term to hit the triangle button, the triangle R1 button to put the aerial through ball in. And it comes to somehow you have Dragusin who's making a run on the ball.
So actually, I kind of remember it was Badel to the right. Who's number 20?
And did I say Ekuban? I meant Haps, of course, played the through ball.
No, you said that right. But who's number 20 again? Anyways, number 20. We'll get to that. Number 20 shoves it into the edge of the box, where the defender from Verona side. They kind of tried to get the ball with a header, falls in front of Haps, the end, of that half moon that is right outside of the box. And then Haps himself stops it with his chest. He throws it towards the opposite side, within the middle of the box, but on the right side, sort of thing, where Dragusin is right there. And I don't know how to say it in English. In Italian, we say al volo, which means without stopping it, without touching the pitch, without touching the field and anything. He just kicks this ball in the middle of the air, and it's a hurling, amazing, tremendous, fantastic goal.
Yeah, on the volley is the English term, I guess you could say.
Wasn't volley the one that Pusic did?
No,
that's the.
I mean, not. Yeah. Different. That was more of a volleyball type of a play that Pulisic did. He was setting it and then spiking it. Used his hands. Yeah, who would have thought? I mean, it was a strange situation for Dragusin to be in a little bit as he was making the run up, and then he's unmarked. No one even knows what to expect when that ball happens, even if it's a great play and he's wide open, which he was. And he just placed it perfectly. It was just perfect touch. He responded to the ball coming in about as good as you could ever expect a player to do it. And it's 1-0. What a great goal.
What's a teasing ball into the box? Haps now. And then Dragusin! What a volley! And what a way to score your first ever goal in Serie A! Dragusin volleys the Rosso-Blu ahead.
It was amazing. And I have to prize 100% Gilardino, because I think that essentially, because we're lacking our forwards that are injured and so on, he's tried to reinvent the front line somehow. That's why we saw Vasquez in the past. We have seen Dragusin himself a few times, and different players altogether. So it's almost indirectly in a different way, because it's not the same way. And I'm not trying to be like your Gasperini widow, but essentially, Gasperini's famous for involving all the players on the pitch in order to do any type of opportunities in the front and in the back. You see forwards coming in the back, and you see the back coming in the front. And I think exactly that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's to be fair. I mean, I know I said you don't normally see Dragusin as much in this position, but this is part of Gilardino's style, to your point, where we have players making runs up. We've seen Vasquez play a number 10 before. We've seen strange things happen, and it's not exactly strange when it's by design and how players are getting involved. And we were able to basically create a numbers opportunity with him coming up, and being unmarked, and he was clinical and taking care of it.
And then more or less that was the first half. So not too much happened before that, except that action that I mentioned before with
Ekuban hitting the post. Yeah,
exactly. And Devinta trying to get it from the ricochet. But second half starts. There was an injury for Ekuban. A lot of people happy about it. Not much, because then who else is going to come in place of Ekuban? Mr. Puskás, Georgi Puskás. So is he actually better or worse than Ekuban? We can have like a whole episode just to talk about that. We talked about already. Puskás is the natural replacement for Retegi, being a pure striker, while Ekuban is more like a winger. But nevertheless, Puskás comes in, and there were like clear, if not two, maybe three occasions. And the first one that I want to really emphasize on is this one on the 56th minute, where Badel has this amazing ball from our half of side of the pitch. Gets Puskás, great for him to kind of like detach himself. He was onside. Detach himself from the two defenders. He was right in the middle of the two defenders, and he managed himself to go towards the goalie by himself. And what does he do? He stops the ball. He's there. I don't know, another player on the defense kind of falls and so on. When he's ready to kick the ball, he kicks it to the stars.
Bade, Strootman, chance to race away. Puskás, flag stayed down. Still with Puskás. Takes a big deflection. Good defensive work from Verona.
To the stars. Like, seriously, like, people really complaining about Ekuban. Like, anyways, obviously our biggest issue is the bench. While we can love both players for different reasons and so on, I don't know. One rumor from the transfer market is Puskás having some interest calls from Bari. So there could be an opportunity to send him off to Bari in the January market. Mind you, before we do that, we definitely need some replacement, regardless of what quality that is. We can't just send him off because he's, as we say in Italian, scarso, which means like he's crap, right? But you need to replace him with something. You can't just necessarily rely on the Primavera. Great other topic altogether again, but we need to pitch into whether those are loans or whatnot in the transfer market, which we still don't know what that's going to look like. Obviously, there's a lot of speculations around that. There's a lot of hope, but from there, I really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we can't be choosers with this in a way. Like, we obviously need another player in that position if he does go. But it's just, who knows? I mean, it's another situation. It's a real head scratcher. It feels like you've had multiple times and chances where you should have buried a goal. This was one of them. It was maybe almost even worse what happened like a minute or two later.
Gudmundsson with the corner. This is Haps. Rolled across. And then Puskás with the touch.
And again, it's another match where he is not converting. We're not seeing goals. I think of our shots on target, he might have had like 3 or 4 of them. So I think the expected goal difference should probably be properly brought down because of those shots on target. We've got our least confident striker being the guy that's getting most of those.
That's right.
I don't know. I mean, we can only hold out hope that something changes with these guys. I think that's the biggest thing. Like right now, obviously we are where we are at least until January. And even with January, you worry somewhat about a player hopping in and getting acclimated and really able to play. I mean, we've seen it multiple times. Also, Gilardino's usually hesitant to put a new player out there right away. So, like, if we get a striker in January and he doesn't really start until March, is it worth that expenditure? Who knows?
It depends on where you want to go with that. With planning purposes and so on. I've heard a few names coming from Vasco da Gama, like really hitting us badly on the fan side, saying, "Oh, why are you going to Genoa?" Suddenly now we're like the runt, or we have become like main team of the group where Vasco sees us as a threat. And then there's other players. There's another player, I can't remember now in what team he plays, but a great 19-year-old also from the midfield that we have eyes on and so on. So these are all good players from a perspective side of things, and similarly, I guess, to like your spores, as we quote unquote among the Genoani, we call them like your potential players from the future, similar to Gudmundsson, to Frendrup and Dragushin himself, and so on, right? But no, then just quickly to wrap up the match, because nothing really happened much after that. I wanted to just put out like a great chance opportunity that Sabelli had. That was just about 5 minutes after the second one that you mentioned. That Puskás had a great opportunity to the right, had a great shot and a great save by their goalie as well, which kind of goes like undermine it, but another defender sort of like goes in the lines and has a shot on goal.
Played quickly by Stroman. Sabelli! And palmed away by Montipot.
And it didn't go in. So that's one of the like 6 or 7 that we had on goal.
Yeah.
But what can you say? Minutes after that, again, Puskás had another opportunity, kind of fell on his feet, and again, he wasn't able to put it in. Then there were a couple, actually, this we should say, because we mentioned it a little bit earlier, only a couple, because then at the end, you only saw one shot on goal, but a couple opportunities where there was this shot that Verona basically sort of woken up. And this is the one I have like a little bit of iffy on it, meaning I'm not too sure if that was the best way, the outcome of how it happened. So essentially this player from the right side outside of the box hit the referee. Everybody was expecting that the referee was going to whistle and stop the ball. And the ball came back to the player that shot the ball. And nothing was a whistle. Nothing was called on to say, so stop the match. He said, no, continue. And the ball goes into the middle of the box. Everybody was expecting, especially from the Genoa side, that the match was going to be stopped. But then the striker came in suddenly, and luckily, great save by Martinez. Fantastic save by Martinez.
Incredible.
Faroni hits the referee. Faroni again, nice ball in. Josep Martinez spills it, and it's off the post. Terracciano denied what would have been his first ever goal for the club.
I heard also an interview that he had to say, he was very humble. He said, I was lucky that part of my body was just right in the trajectory, but I had to, the expectation from reflexes and so on.
Right.
And then after, there was another shot as a ricochet after that one that got the post as well. So, I mean, that doesn't count as a shot on goal and so on. But nevertheless, it was a great save also by Martinez. And I think, in my opinion, if he's not the third, he's the second best of the match.
Yeah, I mean, that save was critical. I think, without having that save being made, we'd probably have a draw again. And, perhaps a little bit fortunate that the shot was in his vicinity and he didn't need to move. But to your point, to be able to be set and respond to a goal opportunity like that and to be able to push it out as quickly as he did, it was a really, really impressive save, I think.
No, it's one of those things that even if they had a goal, nobody would have said anything and would have said, it's a great attacker that put the ball in, and what can the goalie really do? But he actually did the best thing that he could have done, go towards the ball, and regardless of the vicinity and so on, and he managed to stop it with his body and so on. But and after that, there was there was a header from Juric, and basically it ended there. Another great save, by the way, because even though it seemed that it would have went on the crossbar, Martinez had this reaction with his hand. Oh no, I should say after that, again, Puskás had an opportunity. He kind of flaunts it there, and then rightfully so, thankfully so, he decides, okay, I'm not going to shot, I'm not going to ruin it. So he passed it off to Strootman, and Strootman has a chance at goal, which was about 2 yards out on the right side of the post, and that didn't go through as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, so match ended 1-0. Fun to watch, nerve-wracking probably for us Genoani. Obviously, we knew, as Gilardino also said in his interview, that Verona would have come with all they had because they haven't been winning since August against Roma. And we're only waiting for the coach, unless it has to happen, and I didn't hear about it, that their coach is on the edge of perhaps being called off.
Yeah. I mean, they're a team in jeopardy right now. Marco Baroni is the manager. I think the writing seems like it's on the wall. Like with where they are, and I'm not sure that they would have expected it all to be in 19th position at this point of the season. But you never know. It's obviously a really important one for us, though.
No, absolutely, it's utterly important. We have the national break now. So we might even have a week off for personal reasons, or having a week off altogether. Just everybody knows. But if we do have a chance, we will record before the next match. But just to let you know, so there's the international break. In a way, it's important so we can regroup and recuperate our two strikers, or one of the two anyway, somehow, one way or another. So news have it that so in the infirmary. So who did we have there? So Retegi, obviously, Retegi and Messias, which are the two that I was just referring to, are recuperating, slowly working on their trying to come back as fast as possible. We do not want to push it, because then we don't want to have a match that they're going to be injured once again. So we want to make sure that when they do come back, they're totally recuperated, regardless of if we were hungry for having our strikers back, right? It's a match against Frosinone, so it's important in a way because it's one of the teams that we, at our reach sort of thing. But at the same time, it's important also not to ruin our players. On the other side, we had other two players that had been injured during this match. The first one was Bani, and the second one was Ekuban, as I mentioned also a little bit earlier. So both of them just seem to have very light contractures with respect to on the muscle side. Nothing major, 1 to 2 weeks recovery. And the good thing about this break is that it helps us for that, right? So it seems like 9 out of 10 that we're going to have Bani back, and most likely, if not at the very most, the one after that one to have also Ekuban. Now, between Retegi and Messias, we seem more like Messias to be a little bit advantaged, but we can only see because it's going to be playing it by ear. What else can we say? Primavera has lost 2-0, which is not too good to hear, but they played against Inter, but another match is coming up soon, and we're hoping for them to recoup a little bit. Well, if I go back quickly to the match day 12, if you don't mind me, Matt, saying that quickly.
Yep.
So what does it look like? So we had Sassuolo Salernitana that ended 2-2. It was quite an interesting match, by the way. I did see a glimpse of it. Salernitana was winning 2-0 away, and then Sassuolo managed to recoup to end it on the 2-2. So I was also looking, not that I want to look at who does the worst at the bottom for us to do better, because I think we should still focus on the fact of doing the best for ourselves, and then and do it. So right, but you still have to look at that. Obviously, there was a Genoa Verona that ended 1-0. Then we have Lecce Milan that ended 2-2. I don't know. After our match, the stolen 3 points from us. Well, it was supposed to be ending 0-0. So stolen 1 point to us and giving them the 3 points. They haven't managed to win, and that was AC Milan. Another weird match was Juventus Cagliari. I'm a little bit concerned about how Serie A is kind of panning out with these type of refereeing and so on. It's ugly. It's starting to be ugly. All those pods out there, obviously they're not going to even see it, or not even going to mention it, or just going to point it out just because their enemy team is having these sort of things. It's not nice what's happening right now, in my opinion, in Serie A overall. I'm not saying that there is refereeing advantages to one team more than another. I'm seeing a few that have been having these advantages, or these, it seems at least that they're having these help sort of thing, which is not right, because it should just, it's nice how actually this year, how Serie A, we were used to it in Serie B, but how this Serie A side is sort of being like compact. Like we are 4 points to Europa and 5 points to relegation, which is fantastic, right?
And this upcoming match week, if I don't know if you finished going through the week 11, but we are going to have maybe one of the more wild, could be entertaining match weeks of all Serie A campaign. If you look at week 12, or I guess it'll be match week 13, you have all of the top 6 sides right now playing against one of another team in the top 6. Inter and Juve 1 and 2, Milan, Fiorentina, Napoli, Atalanta, and then you go all the way through, the rest of the table, and maybe you could say Lazio, Salernitana should be one-sided. I don't know. You never know. I think Salernitana have enough to maybe get something. And the rest of these matches, they feel like, you can kind of flip a coin. We're playing Frosinone, who are directly above us with 1 point more than us. And even though we're in a good position right now on the table of being 13th, as you mentioned, we're not far at all, really, from 18. We're only 4 points from safety there. And there are a bunch of teams that, if we don't get a result, could leapfrog us, because we're level on points with Lecce. They play Verona, who are struggling, as we just talked about. Sassuolo, who are sitting 2 points behind us. They're playing Empoli, so you think maybe they also will be able to get something there. Empoli's sat below them in the table. Udinese maybe have a little bit more of a challenge in playing Roma. They're 3 points behind us. And then we just talked about Empoli. You look at Cagliari and Monza, Verona again against Lecce, and Salernitana Lazio. So you never really know. Torino is 2 points above us. They play Bologna. How will that match turn out? I think there's a lot of interesting ways that this table could look very different in a number of different combinations by the end of match week 13. So it's another one where we really have to go out there and take care of business.
No, you're right. I didn't end the match day 12, but just very fast, we had the tie with Monza and Torino. We had the loss of Napoli against Empoli, where Garcia was actually the one that got sacked, and we didn't see any sacking happening on the Verona side. Yeah. Fiorentina wins right at the tail end. Udinese Atalanta, it's a stalemate at a 1-1. Lazio Roma was probably the most boring matches, not one of the most boring match to watch on match day 12. And lastly was Inter Frosinone, which ended 2-0. So to your point, the next matches are quite important, because right now we see Inter sitting at 31, 2 points below we have Juventus. Then you start to see a gap, because Milan has been sitting and not doing anything, not even much. They haven't been doing anything since, as I said, theft of the century against us, and they're sitting at 23, so that's 6 points below Juventus. Then Napoli sitting 2 points below them, so these are the top 4. Atalanta, Fiorentina 20, 18 Roma, Bologna, 17 Monza and Lazio, 16 Torino, 15 Frosinone, 14 Genoa and Lecce, 12 Sassuolo, 11 Empoli at the 17th spot, and the last 3 are 9 for Cagliari, Verona at 8, and Salernitana at 5. So it's a tight one, as at least from our perspective, where we are sitting. It's going to be very fast to drop down, but it's also very fast to climb up in the higher ranks, or what they call the left side of the standing, if you look at 10 plus 10. Okay, before we go to wrap, I wanted to quickly mention about also the rumors that I mentioned before for the transfer market. Great news is, if it hasn't happened, I think it happened today with Dragusin, but there are 3 players that are working their wonders with respects to renewing their contracts. So we're talking about Dragusin, Gudmundsson, and Frendrup. So the rumors have it that Dragusin has signed, so extended his contract from 2016 to 2008. Sorry, I said that even on Twitter. 2026 to 2028. Someone responded to me, "Oh wow, Back to the Future." It's too funny. Anyways, so same, I think more or less they're similar. They're in the works. Also, there's quite an adjustment on their wages and so on when this happens. But you also have Gudmundsson that is in the same type of boat and so on. And last but not least is Frendrup, with the very interesting rumors of Liverpool being interested to him and so on, being so young and so great as a player, because the numbers that he's been showing are just fantastic. But no, it's a good thing. Like, what does this mean? Are they going to leave us at all? No, but yes, but you don't know. What I'm trying to say with this is the 777, through the president, through our CEO, or even 777 themselves, have said that in January we're not going to disrupt the team altogether, because there's no point to do that, because it's just going to harm us. And thankfully so, because we were so not used to that with our previous owner. And because we want to be self-sustaining, we have to be ready to lose one of these great players. And these are probably one of the three that we just talked about that might have to go in the summer. But let's not forget that with the sell, even just of one of these players, this is a great opportunity of an investment for the future as well, right?
I mean, I think Will said it perfectly in the We Are Genoa group chat. I mean, like, we're probably going to need to prepare for at least one of these guys to leave us in the very immediate future. The good news is that immediate future is not before the end of the season, which is always kind of a little bit of a concern. And, you know, who knows exactly what it will mean for us. But if we're able to get a decent feedback, I think it's really difficult to imagine us not making a move unless it's really like, hey, we can't find a player of similar quality for a fee that we're going to get back from this guy, which is a possible outcome too. But
I do remember that our CEO Blasquez has said, before we sell someone, we will only sell them if we already know that we have a good, better replacement.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's an easy enough thing to say that when we're in Serie B and we're not getting offers from anybody, but when someone comes and gives us a decent offer, we'll see if they are saying, okay, hold on, wait, we're going to go look for someone we like better. I would love for that to be the case, though.
I want to hope that way, because even though you might be sitting on it saying, okay, you're offering, I don't know, just putting a number there for, I'm just saying Dragusin, because this is the one I'm thinking might be the one that is going to leave us, but the highest likely. But let's say they're going to offer us 30 million. With 30 million, what can you buy? Okay, what is out there that has the qualities and the qualifications and so on? You can get a whole bunch of players for 30 million.
Yeah.
So can that happen? I think it can happen. Now, from there to say, am I going to buy the next Diego Milito? No, of course, right? But, that's a different story.
So one thing I'll put out there just generally, which I know it's not exactly applicable to where we are and to what we have as a club. But look to anyone looking at other leagues in Europe. Can we look to Leverkusen as maybe like a potential model to replicate? It's obviously really easy to say that right now. They're top of the Bundesliga. They spent a net amount this past transfer fee, if I'm not completely mistaken, spent about 12 million more than they brought in. But they sold somewhere of 69 million euro. They spent somewhere in the ballpark range of 80 million euro. And I mean, what a side they have right now. And what's kind of exciting about it is you've got obviously like a former player, a real special player in Javi Alonso, not for Leverkusen, but a guy that played very, very well in many years of his career. All football fans know him. He's building a team in his image and his style and how he wants to conduct things. But they're not going out and spending outrageous transfer fees on players. They've signed this guy, Victor Boniface, I don't know how to pronounce it, from Belgium for 20 million euro. He's going to probably move on to the Premier League for 100 million in a year or two. He's one of the top leading goal scorers in the Bundesliga. You've got, other players in this category. They've got another guy that's really making a major impact called Alejandro Grimaldo. They got for free from Benfica. The hope is basically we can stay buoyant enough and have enough around us that eventually we're going to be able to move like this. I think it's a total pipe dream to think that we're going to have transfer revenues in the 60 million mark within a year. And even then, you still kind of wonder a little bit, because I think our squad has so many places we need to fill. We can't just spend it on a couple of players and be fine. But there's reason for optimism. And I think what we need to figure out what we can do next, Frendrup and Goodmanson, if I'm not mistaken, those are both from the original 777 transfer window in January. We did a great job scouting them. Retegui obviously is someone special and had been on the radar before we signed him. But we need, as much as I'm kind of dumbfounded to say this out loud, I think we need a little bit more like we had in January of what was that, 2021? As much as it seemed insane to us at the time with all these players we were signing from these kind of obscure leagues or that no one had ever heard of. We've already have a couple of them that have really hit. And then you look at Dragusin we brought in last year. There's reason to be excited,
I think Dragusin was part of that window as well, but Dragusin comes on the books later just because he was a loanee from Juventus with a obligation to buy from Juventus from the deal that we had by selling Cambiaso. But having said that, to your point with Leverkusen, I think there is opportunity. And I want to bring an example with Dragusin, where they're quoting him as a possibility of being sold and with a price tag no less than 30. And they were comparing him to Kim by Napoli. But at the same time, before I want to do that, I want to make sure that we are able to get to Europe somehow, whether that is like Fiorentina going on the conference, whether that is like Roma permanently being in the Europa League and so on, or dream is to bring us back again one day to Champions League. Kim gets sold, even though he is older and Dragusin is stronger and younger. Kim played in Champions and Dragusin didn't. He's a debutant for Serie A. And so let's get a team towards the higher ranks of Europe where it counts, and the numbers are going to come up automatically.
Absolutely. I think once we get to that qualification level, it opens up a lot, because then you can really see and demonstrate how our players perform.
I think quickly we can talk about our next match. In the event I don't know if we're going to be able to record next week, but we're going to meet against Frosinone. You quickly mentioned that they're just above us, so it's going to be a very tight and difficult match. It's going to be a little bit nervous, like how we had against the Verona, but hopefully we can get some of those players that we mentioned a little bit earlier, and we just need to get there, essentially. So if you just, in a brief few seconds, what do you think about the next match with prediction?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going to be an interesting match to see how do we respond from some of the injuries that we've had, who's going to be available, how does that change at all with the break, what Girardino maybe thinks, and how we're trying to adapt. I've not watched much of Frosinone this season. I do see they have Khedira, who, of course, we had seen in Serie B last season. I'm not sure if he's really played as much for them. Frosinone are an interesting outfit because they've obviously gotten some results already this year. They've been able to compete in Serie A, and I think it's going to be a good match. I do think we have a good chance of getting points out of this one, though. I think it really comes down ultimately to who we have as our forward playing players. That's really what it is. I don't expect Retegui. Does Macias maybe make a return? I don't know. We'll see. If that's not happening, are we able to find the right kind of constellation with either Ekuban or Puskás? I think, like we've said before, they pretty much from this point on, I think they need to start. So,
What do you think for the scoreline?
I think we've obviously not been putting a lot of points on the board. I think it's going to be 1-0 Genoa.
Okay. On my side, this time around, I'm going to be a little bit the negative one, being that we're going to be playing against Frosinone. I'm looking at their last form, their last matches and so on, including the Coppa Italia. We have them obviously with losing against Inter, but there was no question about that. It was a matter of when and how. Before that one, they win 2-1 against Empoli before the resurgence. We don't even know if it's a resurgence for Empoli, if it's a fluke winning against Napoli. For fuck's sakes, like why didn't we win against Napoli? Anyways, then we have the Coppa Italia where they lost against Torino, which is still a very intimidating side from Juric. I'm just going backwards quickly, but Cagliari, they lose 4-3, but we saw what Cagliari can be. It's Ranieri. So Ranieri, I don't know why even they're at that bottom. I just think they're just like dormant players with some high quality that once in a while they wake up. They lost against Bologna with one man down though, but we've seen how strong Bologna can be now with Thiago Motta. Frosinone has also win against Verona, easily so, lost against Roma. It was like their internal derby. Tied with Fiorentina and tied with Salernitana. So I'm going to stop there, but just to say it's not that easy to win.
Not going to be easy, absolutely.
Against Frosinone. And if I look at also their home form, I'm seeing obviously they're winning against the Verona side and the Empoli side, but obviously before that there was a very clear 4-2 win against Sassuolo, where Sassuolo was the one that was beating all the big teams.
Right.
What's going to happen there? I don't know. It's in Frosinone. It's not going to be easy. I foresee that it could be a tie, if not even a loss. I don't think that we would want, obviously, the loss. It'll be a very tough match, and I'm edging between the tie and the loss. So the heart says the tie, the head says the loss. So who's going to win between Fabrizio 1 and Fabrizio 2? Let's say the heart always wins. So I see that as a tie, as either a 0-0 or 1-1.
That's a really interesting one. I mean, it definitely, you can see it going either way. It's not out of the question at all to imagine this being not necessarily even just a toss-up, but potentially a really negative match for us. But at the same time, while...
And it all depends on the forwards, as you mentioned as well.
The forwards is the big thing, and I think it's fair to say, as you mentioned before, that the form is really probably more in Frosinone's court than it is in our own. But I think, if anything, like the biggest weapon we have right now, I still think is Genoano. We believe in Gilardino and his ability to manage. We've got time off. We've got players recuperating. We've got a side that, is, I think, fairly well changed from where we had seen them last year in Serie B. But we still have, a side who we've clashed against before a few times last season. And I think...
Not positively, mind you, it was with Grosso, but still.
Yes, right. It was with Grosso. There were some different players. It's not exactly a one-to-one. It's not like we've seen these guys in exactly the same way. But I think we know enough to know how we need to approach this match. And I think that there's enough opportunity and enough time for Gilardino to try to find that right balance. And I really do think, we have enough talent within the squad. We talked about Badel before. Obviously, Goodmanson is there. Let's really hope we have Macias playing. If we're able to find the right approach to the match, I think we can really be dangerous. But where we've struggled lately is, as you mentioned, we've had trouble with depth. We've had trouble with players kind of being out of position, and maybe linking to the forward play has not always been one of our strong suits. So, if anything, they're inputs that some things haven't quite been working, and I expect that we're going to have a good game plan going forward. But, time will tell. We'll see how this match goes on in a few weeks.
I'm only reading the chat now. 20 was Sabelli, as you written to me. No, you're not the idiot. I am the idiot as well. Poor Sabelli. He did an amazing cross. Anyways, sorry, I just had to say that. Anyways, so this is a wrap. Episode 72. Looking forward to a break. Just based on the fact that we need to recuperate some key players here.
Yes.
And we're always, I'm going to miss Genoa, obviously, this weekend because, and anyways, after this break, it's going to be a good cadence. It's going to be a 1 week after the other one. Let's hope that all these muscle injuries are going to be behind us and we can only focus on perhaps January market that might bring something. I'm not expecting any major. If anything is going to come just to help to improve that bench. But follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Drop us a like. Drop us any comment. Write to us directly, DMs, whatnot. And we're always here to respond to you and so on. But never forget, always and forever, Forza Genoa. You've listened to La Lanterna, a spotlight on Italian football, a podcast powered by Genoani Si Resta. Thank you for listening and see you next week.